Oda Nobunaga, June 21, 1582. He had conquered half of Japan. Oda Nobunaga was 47 years old, weeks away from unifying the entire country. Every morning for years his armies surrounded him, thousands of soldiers, loyal commanders, an iron wall of men. That morning, they were all somewhere else. At dawn, 13,000 soldiers surrounded Honnoji Temple. The iron gates shattered. Men began dying in the courtyard. Nobunaga grabbed a bow. He moved to the corridor windows. He started shooting, arrow after arrow, into the mass of soldiers below. The outer walls caught fire. Smoke filled the corridors and visibility dropped. The heat pushed him back, room by room. He moved deeper into the temple. The ceiling above him was burning. Embers fell onto the floor around him. He stopped moving. He drew his blade. He knelt and performed seppuku. The roof came down. His body was never found. The fire burned so completely that nothing remained. No bones, no armor, no trace. The man who had nearly unified Japan left nothing behind. Minamoto no Yoshitsune, June 15, 1189. He was the greatest battlefield commander Japan had ever produced. Minamoto no Yoshitsune had never lost a battle. He had defeated the Taira clan at sea in a storm, on horseback down a cliff face, in engagements that should have been impossible. He was 30 years old, undefeated. His brother Yoritomo, the man whose war he had fought, whose enemies he had destroyed, turned on him, jealous of his fame, terrified of his military genius. Yoritomo branded Yoshitsune a traitor and sent hunters across Japan to find him. Former allies shut their gates. Villages refused him shelter. The man who had won a civil war became a fugitive in the country he had saved. At Koromogawa, the hunters finally closed in. Enemy soldiers reached the outer perimeter of his residence. His retainers took positions at the entrance. They held the doorway. Inside, Yoshitsune moved to the inner room. He could hear the fighting getting closer. He knelt on the floor. He drew his blade. He performed seppuku as his last men fell at the door. He was 30. His wife and children were killed in the same compound. His head was preserved in a lacquered box and sent to Kamakura. His brother Yoritomo identified it, then had it put on display. The man who saved his brother's campaign ended up as proof his brother's orders had been carried out. Akechi Mitsuhide, July 2, 1582. The man who burned Nobunaga alive lasted exactly 13 days in power. Mitsuhide was 54. For those 13 days he had held Kyoto, issued orders, acted like a ruler. His army had crushed Nobunaga's remaining forces at Honnoji. He had believed the power was his. Then Toyotomi Hideyoshi arrived with a full army at the Battle of Yamazaki. Mitsuhide's forces broke within hours. Now he was running. He was wearing golden armor, beautiful, expensive, the kind that announces, "I am someone important." That was a fatal mistake. His group passed through a village called Ogarusu. Local farmers spotted the armor. They weren't soldiers. They had no training. They picked up bamboo spears and attacked anyway. A bamboo pole punched through Mitsuhide's side. He went down. He couldn't stand, couldn't flee. He drew his own blade and finished what the farmers had started. The golden armor that should have protected him had marked him for death. His head was carried back to Akichi Castle. Tori Mototada, September 8, 1600. He knew exactly what he was walking into. Tokugawa Ieyasu needed time to gather his army before the decisive battle of Sekigahara. His closest ally, 61-year-old Tori Mototada, would buy that time by holding Fushimi Castle with 1,800 men. The approaching army numbered 40,000. The two men spent their final night together in the castle. Both knew it was a goodbye. That night, Mototada wrote one last letter to his son. 3 words summed up his entire life: serve without reward. In the morning, Ieyasu left. Mototada locked the gates. The siege began immediately. For 12 days, 1,800 men held back 40,000. The outer buildings burned one by one. Each defensive line fell. Each courtyard was taken. The men pulled back, then pulled back again. When the walls finally fell, 10 men remained. Mototada was badly wounded. An enemy soldier cornered him against the wall. Mototada raised one hand. The soldier stopped. Mototada straightened his back on the blood-soaked floor. He performed seppuku himself. The floorboards where he and his men died were later removed and placed in the ceilings of 5 temples across Kyoto. Today, if you visit those temples and look up, you can still see the stains, dark shapes in ancient wood, handprints, the silhouettes of men who chose to die. Asano Naganori, April 21, 1701. Asano was a 33-year-old lord. He had a domain, a household, 300 loyal samurai who served under him. His life was structured, ordered, respected. He was assigned to prepare for a royal ceremony at Edo Castle. His instructor, a senior official named Kira, was supposed to teach him the protocols. Kira refused. He insulted Asano in front of others, withheld information, made him look incompetent on purpose, repeatedly, over weeks. One day Asano snapped. He pulled his sword inside Edo Castle, where weapons were strictly forbidden. He slashed at Kira, a shallow cut on the forehead. Kira was fine. The shogun's verdict came the same afternoon: death. No trial, no appeal. Asano was handed a knife and told to perform seppuku in a garden before sundown. Kira received no punishment at all. Before he died, Asano wrote a short death poem. He set the brush down. He drew the blade across his own stomach. He was 33. His estate was seized. His 300 samurai were stripped of rank overnight. Left without a lord, without a purpose, 300 became 47. Those men spent 2 years in hiding, planning. They broke into Kira's compound on a winter night, found him hiding in a storage room, took his head, then turned themselves in, and were ordered to commit seppuku too. Sanada Yukimura, June 3, 1615. They called him the Crimson Demon. On every battlefield, soldiers saw the same thing: red armor, moving forward, never back. He had built his reputation over decades of combat. He was the warrior other warriors talked about. During the summer siege of Osaka, Yukimura led a charge so ferocious he broke through multiple defensive lines. He pushed into the area of the enemy command post. Tokugawa Ieyasu, the man who would become shogun, was only a few meters away. His men surged forward behind him and broke through the final ranks. The command post fell into chaos, but hours of continuous close combat had destroyed his body. His forces were pushed back. He kept moving. His legs were failing. He made his way to Yasui Shrine. He removed his red helmet. He sat down against a tree. Enemy soldiers found him there. He didn't fight. He didn't flee. He looked up at them and said, "I am Sanada Yukimura. Take my head." He sat with his hands open in his lap and didn't move. The most ferocious samurai of the era died sitting in the dirt, too exhausted to lift his arms. Ishida Mitsunari, November 6, 1600. He had commanded 130,000 men at the Battle of Sekigahara, the largest samurai battle in history. He had planned every detail. He had believed he would win. He lost. Now, 40-year-old Mitsunari was being walked through Kyoto in chains. Crowds lined the streets to watch the defeated general pass. At the execution ground, guards positioned him at the block. His hands were bound. He knelt in the dirt. A guard offered him a final drink of water. There was none available, only a dried persimmon. Mitsunari refused it. The guard pointed out he was about to be beheaded. Mitsunari calmly explained that persimmons were bad for digestion. The crowd went silent. The blade came down. His head was placed on a post as a public warning. Even at the end, his mind had been running, calculating, refusing to let go of control over the only thing he had left. Hijikata Toshizo, June 20, 1869. He was the last one. Hijikata was vice commander of the Shinsengumi, the shogunate's most feared special force. For years, his unit had enforced order with blades and discipline. He had built his reputation on the idea that a samurai did not retreat. By 1869, the era he had fought for was already dead. The samurai class had been abolished. Modern conscript armies with rifles and artillery had replaced everything the old warriors stood for. Hijikata kept fighting. At the Battle of Hakodate, he mounted his horse. He moved to the front of his men, not behind them, at the front. He rode directly toward the Imperial rifle line. The guns opened fire. An Imperial bullet hit him in the lower back. His body folded forward in the saddle. The horse kept running. By the time his men reached him, Hijikata Toshizo was already on the ground. He was 34. Killed not by a sword, but by a rifle. The weapon that made everything he believed in obsolete. The samurai era ended with a man falling off a horse in the dirt in Hakodate, while armies with guns marched past him.